Hi, this is Matthew again. Today I want to talk to you about a new report that finds abortions in Minnesota have increased since the U.S. Supreme Court's Dobbs decision last year that overturned Roe v. Wade. This is the first of a two-part video series on abortion statistics in Minnesota. In the wake of that June 2022 ruling that left abortion policies up to individual states, some states have enacted abortion restrictions and bans. Others, including Minnesota, have passed laws guaranteeing the right to abortion and protecting people coming from out of state for reproductive care. The new study comes from the Society of Family Planning, a health research organization. The study found that the average number of abortions each month in Minnesota rose about 36%, when comparing the 2 months before the Dobbs decision with the 12 months after. It's another indicator that more patients are coming to Minnesota from out of state for their abortion procedures. As neighboring states, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, have passed laws restricting or banning abortion, Minnesota has become an island for abortion access. Planned Parenthood North Central States made a statement that the organization has been adapting to the increase in state-to-state travel for care. The Minnesota Department of Health also reported earlier this year that abortions were on the rise in the state, due in part to out-of-state patients traveling to Minnesota for care. The Society of Family Planning noted that the total number of abortions nationwide increased slightly in the year after the Dobbs decision, even though that ruling allowed states to ban abortion. States with restrictions saw decreases, but states that still allow access, like Minnesota, have seen an uptick. The Dobbs decision turned abortion access in this country upside down. Allison Norris, a co-chair for the study, known as We Count, and a professor at The Ohio State University's College of Public Health, said in a statement reported by the Associated Press. The fact that abortions increased overall in the past year shows what happens when abortion access is improved, and some previously unmet need for abortion is met. However, not only has Minnesota performed abortions for out-of-state patients, they have also changed some of the rules. Meanwhile, an anti-abortion group celebrated that the number of abortions in states with the tightest restrictions declined by nearly 115,000. We Count's report confirms pro-life protections in states are having an increasing impact on the number of abortions, Tessa Longbonds, a senior researcher for the Charlotte Lozier Institute, said in a statement. Abortion bans and restrictions are consistently met with court challenges, and judges have put some of them on hold. Currently, laws are being enforced in 14 states that bar abortion throughout pregnancy, with limited exceptions, and 2 more that ban it after cardiac activity can be detected, usually around 6 weeks of gestational age and before many people realize they're pregnant. So, what is the state of abortions in the states surrounding Minnesota and in Minnesota? First, let's discuss Minnesota. Post-Roe, Minnesota has rewritten many of its laws around abortion to make them more liberal. They have made it legal to perform abortions up until the time of birth and even after birth. On January 31st, Governor Tim Walz signed H.F. 1, guaranteeing the right to abortion and other reproductive health care options. In April, the Minnesota Senate passed a bill later signed by Walz preventing Minnesota courts or officials from complying with extraditions, arrests or subpoenas related to reproductive health, including abortion. Toward the end of the session, lawmakers passed bills that limited reporting requirements and expanded situations where medical assistance could be used to cover abortion services, among other things. All of these changes make it easier to get an abortion and to pay for it. While the end of Roe v. Wade drove the expansion of abortion rights in Minnesota, the groundwork for some of those changes was also laid in July 2022 when Ramsey County Judge Thomas Gilligan ordered state officials to stop enforcing some Minnesota abortion restrictions, including the informed consent law and the two-parent notification law, saying they violate the state constitutional right to privacy. This change represents another example of how the state is taking on the role of parents. He also struck down felony penalties for abortion providers who run afoul of state regulations, as well as laws that require providers to inform pregnant people of the procedure's particular medical risks and the 24-hour waiting period. Here the state stepped in to protect abortion providers who were not following the law. It also takes away more parental rights. In Minnesota, roughly 90% of all abortions in 2021 occurred in the first 12 weeks after conception. According to the most recent data from the Minnesota Department of Health, 1 abortion was reported after 25 weeks. Half of the clinics in Minnesota only provide abortions through the first trimester. Only 1 will provide abortions through 23 weeks and there are no clinics here that provide abortions after 23 weeks and 5 days. Of 10,136 abortions performed in the state in 2021, more than 1,000 were reported to involve people from out of state, 56 from Iowa, 20 from Michigan, 84 from North Dakota, 158 from South Dakota, 634 from Wisconsin and 57 from other states. Next, Let's look at the abortion rules and status in North Dakota. In April 2023, Governor Doug Burgum signed into law a proposal banning almost all abortions. The only exceptions are for cases of rape or incest, and where the pregnant person terminates the pregnancy in the first 6 weeks. The fuller ban is on hold as the North Dakota Supreme Court weighs a prior effort to make abortion unconstitutional in the state. This is an example of where a state put in more restrictions on abortions as a result of overturning Roe v. Wade ruling. Next we will take a look at the status of abortion rights in South Dakota. In 2005, South Dakota lawmakers passed 2 pieces of legislation that created a trigger law to ban abortion if the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade. On June 24, 2022, they went into effect, making abortion a felony with 2 years in prison and a $4,000 fine. The only exception is in cases where an abortion is deemed necessary to save the life of the pregnant person. There is no exception for rape or incest. Abortion rights organizations are gathering signatures to place a constitutional amendment on the 2024 ballot to restore access to abortion in the state. So what is the status of abortion rights in Wisconsin? When Roe v. Wade was overturned, a ban from 1849 went into effect. The law has no exceptions for rape or incest. Democratic Governor Tony Evers and Attorney General Josh Kaul filed suit in 2022 to block the ban and reinstate a law from 1985 which allowed abortion up until roughly 20 weeks or when fetal viability is determined. That lawsuit is still pending. Now, what about Iowa? In 2018, the Iowa legislature passed a bill that would limit abortions to 6 weeks. That law was ruled unconstitutional by a district court in 2019. After Roe was overturned, Iowa GOP Governor Kim Reynolds attempted to resurrect this more restrictive ban, but it was again blocked by a district court. It's currently before the Iowa Supreme Court. What about Michigan? After Roe was overturned, a 1931 law banning abortion went into effect in Michigan. During the 2022 midterm election, Michigan voters in a referendum agreed to enshrine abortion and contraceptive rights into the state constitution. Governor Gretchen Whitmer vetoed the 1931 law on April 5. Abortion is legally roughly until 24-26 weeks, or fetal viability. There is a 24-hour waiting period, and if a person is under 18, a parent or guardian must give permission. How about Nebraska? Nebraska Governor Tim Pillen signed into law a 12-week abortion ban on May 22. There is a 24-hour waiting period, and if a person is under 18, a parent or guardian must give permission. Attorneys for Planned Parenthood have since sued over the law, saying it violates the state constitution. That case is set to be heard in July. Last, what is the abortion status in Illinois? After Roe was overturned, abortion remained legal in Illinois. At the beginning of the 2023 legislative session, Illinois lawmakers approved a measure protecting out-of-state abortion seekers and expanding access to reproductive health care. Abortion is available in Illinois up to about 24-26 weeks, or when fetal viability is determined. There is no 24-hour waiting period, and parent or guardian consent is not required. The Supreme Court last year forced Tammy Kromenacher to make a choice she hoped she'd never have to make, stay or leave her clinic in North Dakota. The High Court in late June struck down Roe v. Wade, ending a federal constitutional right to abortion. Kromenacher knew her Red River Women's Clinic in Fargo, the only clinic in North Dakota performing abortions, would now face a state wave of prohibitive abortion laws. She couldn't stay. By September, with $1 million in GoFundMe donations, she'd moved the clinic across the Red River to Moorhead, Minnesota, where it sees more patients than ever. While most are still from North Dakota, she said patients are coming from all over the U.S. We had a patient from Texas who just sort of inadvertently, partway through her visit, let it slip that she was from Texas. And we said, that's okay and, in fact, here's some additional travel money from the local abortion fund, Kromenacher recalled. She just was so relieved. She said, oh, my gosh, I thought you guys were going to have to report me or something. Minnesota abortion clinics say demand for abortion services has climbed significantly in the year since the High Court overturned Roe, leaving Minnesota an island in a patchwork of abortion availability around the country. It's brought huge challenges for clinics here working to meet the needs of a growing list of patients from around the country. Planned Parenthood North Central States reports that its Minnesota clinics performed 25% more abortions in the 10 months after the Dobbs ruling striking down Roe, compared to the 10 months prior. Minnesota has become a destination to get an abortion. Not only from around surrounding states but all over the U.S. Staff at the clinic saw out-of-state patients traveling for abortions in Minnesota nearly double during that period, creating new challenges. We've seen this bottleneck of patients who are trying to fit into appointments in states where abortion is accessible, said Dr. Sarah Traxler, Chief Medical Director for Planned Parenthood North Central States. Patients from South Dakota and North Dakota are going to Minnesota to get an abortion, she said. Patients from Missouri are going into Iowa. Patients from Wisconsin are coming to Minnesota, because the providers who are in those states, who know how to provide this essential health care, are not legally able to do it anymore. Outside the We Health Clinic on a recent day in Duluth, a small group stood in prayer, competing with the noise of a massive road construction project. A car facing the clinic was wrapped with a decal showing anti-abortion messages and the image of a fetus. It's a sensory overload, one that clinic staff say more patients are walking through regularly. Before Red River Women's Clinic moved to Moorhead, We Health Center was the only abortion provider across northern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. It's now feeling a new kind of ripple effect. We had been told to expect a 25% increase in the number of patients traveling to Minnesota for abortion care, which was true at our clinic, said Paulina Briggs, executive director at We Health. However, most of those patients weren't traveling from out of state for us. They were from clinics in the Twin Cities where demand was high or to cover up the fact that they were getting an abortion. As more people from outside the state flew into the cities for care, they made appointments at clinics nearby like Whole Woman's Health in Bloomington or Planned Parenthood in St. Paul. That meant that Twin Cities residents were seeing longer and longer wait times locally, forcing them to travel elsewhere, including to Duluth. Stunning political wins for abortion rights supporters last November in the state put the DFL in charge of the legislature and governor's office, leading to a vast expansion of abortion rights in contrast to much of the rest of the country. It's created a hard-to-fill demand in Minnesota. We've probably doubled our volume as far as the numbers in the first part of last year, versus the first part of this year, said Dr. Julia Mann, medical director for Just the Pill, a non-profit telemedicine abortion pill provider. Mann said the organization, which operates in Minnesota, Wyoming, Montana, and Colorado, had 4 times the amount of requests for appointments after Dobbs than before. But the most striking thing she's noticed this year is the volume of patients who are traveling to Minnesota for an abortion. In Minnesota, we obviously see everybody surrounding the Dakotas, Wisconsin, Iowa, people from Nebraska. We have people coming from Idaho to see us in Wyoming or Montana, whatever's closest, she said. We do have a fair amount from Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, so people are coming from really all over the place. While providers say they've seen their individual numbers climb, it's still unclear what broad impact of the last year has been across Minnesota. Be sure to watch the second part of our new video on abortion statistics. If you want to see the second part of this video on abortion statistics in Minnesota or other videos on cultural issues, go to our website at nehemiahreset.com or our Rumble.com account. We look forward to seeing you again in the near future on another of our videos. Sign up to be notified of our new videos once per week by going to our website. I hope you have a great day.